Good afternoon, everybody. Tzaharaim Tovim. We're here with Ambassador of Israel to the United States, Ambassador Yechiel Leiter. He's going to give a brief statement about the heinous murder happened last night. We lost two members of our family, the family of the Israeli embassy in Washington, Sarah Milgram and Yaron Leshinsky. Ambassador Leiter is going to give a brief statement in Hebrew, followed by a statement in English. Ambassador, please.
שלום לכם. אתמול בלילה הגעתי לזירת האירוע יחד עם פם בונדי ושופטת ג'נין פירו. במקום הזה דיברתי עם נשיא ארצות הברית, דונלד טראמפ, שהתקשר אליי, ביקש להביע את תנחומיו ואת כעסו על האנטישמיות הגואה בארצות הברית, והבטיח לעשות הכל כדי למגר את המגפה הזאת של אנטישמיות. I arrived here last night after the security forces allowed me to reach the site. I met Attorney General Pam Bondi and Judge Jeanine Pirro, Chief Attorney for Washington. Ms. Bondi turned the phone over to the President. The President was very firm in his statement, expressing condolence and condemning violence. Asked me to convey that message to the Prime Minister Netanyahu. They spoke just 10 minutes ago. The President reaffirmed his commitment to uproot the violent anti-Semitism that has swept across university campuses in this country. It is imperative to understand that this form of anti-Semitism is not new. It's as old as the Jewish people are. But this form of anti-Semitism takes on a new form. The person who shot these two young people dead last night screamed, "Free, free Palestine." This is done in the name of a political agenda to eradicate the State of Israel. The State of Israel is now fighting a war on 7 fronts. This is the 8th front. The war to demonize, delegitimize, to eradicate the right of the State of Israel to exist. When people say Israel has a right to exist, I say, thank you very much. We're not looking for anybody's acknowledgement. Nobody says that Belgium has the right to exist. Nobody says that South Africa has the right to exist. Israel has a right to exist, a right that goes back over 3,000 years. Long before there was anything called Palestine as a geographic location, there was Israel, the people of Israel, and the land of Israel. We've come home, we plan to stay there, and we're not going to be intimidated by the violence of those screaming on behalf of Palestine. These were two young, beautiful people, Yaron and Sarah, planned to be engaged next week in Jerusalem. Yaron bought an engagement ring this week. He was taking his soon-to-be bride to meet his parents, who live just outside of Jerusalem. Their murder will not be in vain. People of Israel's embassy in Washington will continue to serve the people of Israel and to bridge the friendship, deepen the friendship between the American people and the people of Israel. We will not be deterred. We are a resilient people. Israel's resilient. The United States is resilient. Together we're going to stand off and defeat this anti-Israelism and anti-Zionism, which parades around as something along the lines of freedom-seeking. This is not freedom-seeking. Hamas is a death cult. They declared war on behalf of Iran and a ring of fire in order to eradicate us. And this individual here last night was an extension of that ring of fire. They will be defeated. Thank you.
We'll now take some questions. CNN, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and of course I'm very sorry for the loss of your two staffers. I was wondering if you could comment on whether you've learned anything, either from the Israeli security services or the American law enforcement, about the writings of the suspect, and perhaps any connection to activist or terror groups? And then more broadly, could you comment on how anti-Semitism around the world is affected because of Prime Minister Netanyahu's war aims of continuing the war to eradicate Hamas? Thank you.
We don't have any further information. I was here last night with Washington's chief of police, the mayor of Washington, and of course, all the law enforcement agencies. The suspect continues to be under investigation. I don't have an update as to the extent to which he was working alone or with others, or whether or not he has any contorted manifesto or something along those lines. I reject your question or the insinuation that anti-Semitism is rising because of Israel's defense of its country. Hamas declared war. Israel is responding to that war. We will not allow Hamastan to exist on our borders. We will not allow an Iranian proxy to exist on our borders. We had our people slaughtered. It's not going to happen again. Hamas has to be destroyed, will be destroyed the very same way that the Nazis were destroyed. These are new Nazis, and we're going to defeat them. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, not because of Israel's responding, but because of countries like France, who under this circumstance, now, tomorrow, plan to propose the unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state. So the French, in their contorted morality under the government of Macron, is going to declare October 7th Palestine Independence Day. This is a contorted sense of morality. They should be ashamed of themselves, and we're going to oppose that in the area of diplomacy as well.
אוקיי, אני מישראל, אנחנו רוצים אם אפשר בעברית פרטים שאפשר לומר על החקירה. מישהו מסתובב כאן זמן רב והוא ידע ממש לזהות את הנציגים היהודים, זה היה אירוע רב לאומי.
הוא היה בתוך האירוע, מתברר, הסתובב בתוך האירוע. אנחנו לא יודעים עדיין בדיוק מה הוא אמר, אבל אמר מספיק כדי שירחיקו אותו מהאירוע, יצא החוצה, חיכה לישראלים, עובדי השגרירות, לצאת, ירה בהם, למזלנו הרב, עוד שלוש עובדות השגרירות הספיקו לברוח והצילו את עצמם. לצערנו הרב, שרה וירון נורו מטווח אפס ונהרגו במקום.
Mr. Ambassador, could you confirm if the suspect was part of the rallies and the protests against Israel we have seen in the last 2 years here in the USA? And how are you going to reinforce the security in the embassy?
We have the full confidence in the law enforcement agencies here in Washington on the local level, on the federal level, and we're sure that they're going to provide full protection, not only for Israel's representatives here in the United States, but for Jewish communities around the country. People must not be afraid. People must wear their Star of David, they must wear their kippah on their heads, they must go forward and indicate to the world that this attempt to demonize and delegitimize and ultimately eradicate Israel and the rights of the Jewish people to the land of Israel won't be tolerated.
Was the suspect part of these rallies in the universities?
We don't know at this point if he participated in rallies, but that's a peripheral question. The point of the matter is that on campuses around this country, where ideas, these are the temples of ideas, where smart ideas, intelligent ideas, moral ideas, truthful ideas are supposed to be taught, we have useful idiots running around in support of the destruction of Israel. Let's make one thing clear. If there's any genocide to be spoken about, it's the genocide in the scream, in the shrill scream of from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That means the elimination of Israel. That's genocide. What we're doing in Gaza is defending our people. We're doing everything we possibly can to avoid collateral damage. Much more than any army in the world has ever had to face. We have 450 miles of underground tunnels that were funded by international agencies, supposedly providing humanitarian funding. 450 miles of tunnels that are being operated by 40 to 50,000 terrorists, heavily armed, hiding behind the skirts of civilians. It's a very difficult task that we have, and we wish to God we wouldn't have to involve ourselves in this battle. But because it's been forced on us We're going to battle, and we're going to win the battle. We're obviously feeling in a tremendous state of pain. These were beautiful young kids who worked with us every day. And the loss is a personal one for everyone. Listen, I got the knock on the door a year and a half ago when my son was killed in Gaza. And now I had to knock on the door and inform the parents of these young people that they've lost their children. It's a very difficult time for us. We're in mourning. But the thing about the Jewish people is we know how to get up from mourning with resilience and move on. We're going to move on. The embassy is going to move on. All of Israel's representatives here are going to move on and around the world. Despite the incessant, non-stop verbal attacks and now physical attacks on our people.
Mr. Ambassador, Mark Stone from Sky News. Could you tell us a bit more about what Yaron and Sarah did at the embassy? Just reflect on their work for us.
Yaron worked for one of our senior diplomats who works at the political division of the ministry. She's an expert on the Middle East, and he was her senior advisor. He did most of the research. He was just a prince of a human being, very unassuming, very intelligent, very accomplished. Sarah worked in our public diplomacy wing. She did a lot of work with our Christian liaison communities. She held events in the embassy for guests, and they were just a beautiful couple together.
And if I could just follow up, you were very critical just then of the government of France, of Emmanuel Macron. How would you suggest that foreign governments who are concerned, deeply concerned about the Israeli government's methods in Gaza, how should they be critical without, inciting violence, as you seem to be suggesting?
First of all, nobody is more concerned about conducting warfare than we are. We're the ones who are losing our soldiers. And if we could conduct a war without collateral damage, that would be wonderful. Do you know of any wars where there's no collateral damage? The French conducted the wars without collateral damage. Our numbers, as a matter of fact, are much better. Okay? We do everything we can. By the way, my son would be alive today if we did what the government of France and most of the European countries are condemning us of doing. We don't strafe bomb population centers. We do everything we can to avoid collateral damage. So if you want to criticize, first sit down and talk and present an alternative. What you'd like us to do, perhaps, Mr. Macron, is to roll over and play dead. We don't do that. You want us to turn around and leave and let Hamas stay at our border? Would Emmanuel Macron allow for Hamas to be on the border of Paris? We're a tiny, small country. And we can't afford to have jihadis who want to eliminate us on our border. It's that simple.
Mr. Ambassador, Channel News. This couple were here last night for an event about police and humanitarian aid. Is that not a sign that it's a time to resume talks on the ceasefire?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
The couple were here last night for an event about humanitarian aid in Gaza, and they were killed. Is that not a sign that it's time to resume talks about a ceasefire?
We're constantly in talks about a ceasefire. The war could end tomorrow if Hamas disarms, turns over the hostages. It's not dependent on us. Hamas is holding on to hostages. They're taking human beings and holding them in dungeons underground, right? And preventing their own people from living in a normal society. So constantly, this constant barrage, this obsessive barrage of contradiction, of criticism of Israel. Like, don't you get tired of it? Isn't it embarrassing? We want a ceasefire. We want the war to end. And we want humanitarian funding to go in. We've been sending humanitarian funding in for a year and a half, despite the fact that it's being used by Hamas to attack our soldiers. I'd like to see another country in the world do that. Provide the enemy with the wherewithal to attack its own soldiers. So now what we've done is created an agency which will distribute the food in Gaza, distribute the medical needs in Gaza without the UN. The UN is the problem, not the solution, because the UN knows very well that as they were taking the trucks of supplies into Gaza, it was then being turned over to Hamas, willingly or unwillingly, but that's where it was going. So Hamas was benefiting from the humanitarian aid. I mean, just imagine this. People in the United States raise money for NGOs to buy humanitarian funding, which goes then to Hamas to use against Israeli soldiers. This is insane. So there's now a foundation that's been created, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is intent on distributing food in Gaza. It's up and running, please God, on the 24th, 25th, where the food will be distributed directly to families, not to organizations, not to Hamas, so that Hamas doesn't get the food and the people of Gaza get the food. We've been at the forefront of arranging that together with our American counterparts. We could use a word of thanks for that.
Mr. Ambassador, what needs to be done in the immediate future to stop something like this happening again?
What needs to be stopped is this constant pandering to the Palestinian narrative, which ultimately demands the destruction of Israel. Look, Sinwar jumped the gun. This was part of a master plan of the Iranians called the Ring of Fire. And he was supposed to be part of a massive attack that happened all at once, Hezbollah in the north, Hezbollah from Syria and Iraq, the Houthis in the south, and Hamas from Gaza, with the Iranians raining the ballistic missiles they later shot on top of us. Sinwar jumped the gun. He massacred 1,200 of our people. Since then, we've lost another 900 soldiers. We defeat Hamas. We insist that Iran never achieve the possibility for nuclear weapons, and this is going to end. It means the defeat of evil. It means not walking up to evil and enchanting ourselves with evil and romancing evil. Enough is enough. This is an Iranian plot to destroy Israel. It's existed ever since our inception. It's changed because the majority of the Arab world and the majority of the Muslim world wants to live in peace with Israel. And that's why we moved in the direction of the Abraham Accords. And the reason why Iran is so content on doing this is because they see the momentum within the Arab world towards accommodation with Israel. And this was the intention to stop it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
We need to I know you already gave us this answer, but I didn't have it record. What is needed to get a ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel?
Let our hostages go, disarm, and leave Gaza.
With this, we finish. Thank you,
Mr.
everybody.
Ambassador, what would
Thank you very
victory
much.
look like for you? You mentioned,
I just
you're
said what
gonna win the
victory
battle?
looks like.
Yeah.
Victory looks like our hostages are released, Hamas is removed from Gaza, and we start a process of rebuilding Gaza for people who really want to live there in peace. Thank you.
Mr. Ambassador, are you confident law enforcement can protect your diplomats and Israeli citizens in the U.S.?
What?
Are you confident in U.S. law enforcement they can
I'm
protect
very
your
confident.
diplomats?
I'm very confident in law enforcement.